Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 33 of Over the Top Rope on Backbreaker Media. It's the Brothers of Discussion. It is Spencer and Hayden Love, and it is proudly part of the Win Column Sports Network, where you can find all your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of wrestling. Hayden, how are you, man?
I'm genuinely excited to be here.
Good. Like, as opposed to all the other times where you're faking it.
It depends on the day.
Well, as always, before we get started here, we want to give our quick shout-out to Beercade YEG on 105th Street and 82nd Avenue in Edmonton, Alberta. It's the home of Edmonton Wrestling. It's where you can catch Hayden and I doing Over the Top Rope live prior to each and every WWE pay-per-view and hanging out. You can come and see us, say hi to members of the independent wrestling community here in Edmonton who are, frankly, just more interesting than Hayden and I, but either way, it's always a great time. So April 7th, WrestleMania is just a few weeks away. Give them a call to book your table right now. Hayden, if we're talking about Beercade YEG, I think let's sort of flip the script on this one a little bit. Let's talk about Alberta wrestling first, because usually we save it for the end so that all of our friends out there, not just on the Backbreaker Media Network, listen to the whole podcast.
I hope so.
But we sort of usually work our way from the WWE to the province of Alberta. Right now, I think we should let's start there, because there's a ton coming up, including what I know you and I are both very, very excited for. March 23rd, we are just over 2 weeks away from PWA's 18th anniversary show at the NAIT Gymnasium. Hayden, from what they've got announced of a match card so far, it looks absolutely nuts. I guess overall thoughts as we approach the 18th anniversary.
I mean, you are correct. This is an absolutely stacked card, and rightfully so. Like, if it's an anniversary show, then you should pull out all the stops.
And they always do.
I think the first match that you and I heard about was just, or not even the match, but the first real announced talent showing up was Jeff Cobb. And it's always nice to see some independent talent outside of Albertan talent come in, because Then you can just see some fresh matchups. Like, it's pretty obvious why people are excited for him.
Oh, man, I couldn't agree more. The guy's an absolute stud, and like you and I were talking about a little earlier, he's someone that I'm really just starting to get familiar with, and especially since he was announced for the show, and I know you're a longer-term fan of him, but like you said, there's a reason that, number one, he's being brought in for one of the major shows of the year as far as the PWA goes, but there's a reason people are excited to see him.
Yeah, and that just even goes beyond his talent, because it just goes to show, how excited people are to see who he's facing, which is the Omen Gabriel.
100% after winning a triple threat match against Bobby Sharp and Michael Allen, Richard Clark at PWA Fruition on February 23rd. We will have the Omen Gabriel taking on the visitor, Jeff Cobb. It's not his nickname. He's just visiting.
That would be an excellent wrestling nickname.
The visitor? Yeah. As a traveling.
I mean, you go town to town each and every night, essentially. But it is a pretty friggin' creepy nickname.
Well, and even if you were to have a stable based around that, it's the visiting team. I would love to be announced at each and every wrestling show as, and now, the visiting team.
Yeah. Whatever works for you, Spencer.
I know, right? I'm not that creative. Either way, Jeff Cobb versus the Omen Gabriel is going to be an absolutely outstanding match, man. Like, we've watched Gabriel wrestle for years, and he is a guy who just consistently gets better. Mm-hmm. Not to say he's not great from the onset, but like watching that match last month with the three guys involved, it was easily for me one of the highlights of the card. I know it'll be your first time seeing it live. Gabriel's debuted an absolutely outstanding new entrant, sort of shifted the gimmick a little bit, which is awesome. And like you said, man, Jeff Cobb's Jeff Cobb. Not a ton else you have to say about that. We've also got a triple threat match for the tag team championships. It's going to be a doozy. I don't really have another way to say that, so I went all the way back to the 60s for that one. Yeah. We've got
well said. That's really just reaching into a bag and pulling something out.
Exactly. Just like I think these three are going to pull out something great on March 23rd.
Well said.
Excellent transition, right?
Yeah,
we're getting better at those. We've got Body Break. Obviously, Kat Von Hees, Bobby Sharp, Michael Allen, Richard Clark are going to be taking on the League, the current PWA Tag Team Champions. Kylie Morgan, the female in that match, also teaming up with Davey O'Doyle and Braden Parsons. And last but not least, we've got the Above Average Joes Aiden Adams, Kenny Stryker, and Zoe Sager. It's going to be a cool match for you, and I'm excited to get your thoughts on it, Hayden, because the people you have seen in this match, you've seen a lot of, and the people you haven't, you genuinely haven't seen once. So your thoughts going into it?
Yeah, and especially with regards to the woman. Like I haven't seen Kylie Morgan, nor have I seen Zoe Sager, pardon me. That was hard to roll off the tongue, and I don't know why. But yeah, like I'm familiar with a lot of these guys. You are as well. Kenny Stryker, Aiden Adams, all the boys, and of course Body Break, man.
Do you have an early favorite?
Body Break, no
They're
question.
your picks?
I'm calling it early.
These are my most favorite matches to watch, Hayden, because it's a match that I genuinely could see any of these teams winning. They all got their own unique strengths about them. I think obviously when you look at a Davey O'Doyle, Braden Parsons team, like it's sort of a classic size and speed lineup, you know what I mean? And now you add Kylie Morgan, who, as far as I'm aware, has never wrestled in tandem with the league. I believe she's only managed them. I'm very excited to see where that goes. You look at Body Break, and I completely understand why they'd be your favorites to win, man, because not only do you have Michael Allen Richard Clark, who to me is one of the most underappreciated guys out there, and Bobby Sharp, who, same sort of thing, like, both of them are very, very respected names, and not even just in Alberta, but obviously outside of Alberta.
Yeah, all over the world.
Exactly. And then you add Kat Von Hees, who, like, to me may be, regardless of gender, like the most dominating, imposing force in wrestling in Alberta. Like, there's not many I can think of. You talk about people like the Slammer or Titan or just monstrous people, but she's 100% up there.
Yeah, we've sung her praises in the past. And you are correct. And you answered my next question, because I didn't know whether or not this was just going to be a doubles match or whether or not it was an intergender triples match.
9 people involved.
That's crazy as hell.
Yep. And the above average
Pardon my
Joes, who,
French.
don't worry about it, man.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup to see as well, because, again, you know how well the above average Joes work together. Personally, they're one of my favorite tag teams on the independent scene today.
They're above average, yeah.
And I think that adding Zoe Sager to the mix, who I, again, don't know outside of the last show if there's ever been like an official partnership or if they've ever teamed up together or anything along those lines, but all 3 of them bring something very unique to this match.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. I think I'm going to have to call the above average Joes for this one.
Hey, beautiful.
In a tight match.
Hey, 2 different worldviews, and there's only going to be one victor. Only one way to find out.
Well, and the only reason I say that is I know Parker picks the league, so all 3 of us can be on opposite sides of this one. We've also got, just to break up the match card here a little bit, Hayden, you mentioned Jeff Cobb. I don't know if he was the first announced overall talent. I know he's the first who can compete in ring, but we will have, at the 18th anniversary show, TJ Wilson making an appearance. Tyson Kidd for all of you WWE casuals out there. TJ Wilson, obviously, huge. Like, I wouldn't hesitate to use the word legendary as far as Albertan wrestling goes.
Absolutely. One of the last graduates of the dungeon.
I believe even, like, the last graduate of the dungeon.
Gotta wonder.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know if that's 100%, but yeah.
I couldn't vouch. I've never met the guy.
No, you're completely correct, man. Like, he is a legend in Alberta.
Exactly. You look at the guys he's trained, man, like Michael Richard Blaze, Brandon Van Danielson, the Western Lions, 2 of the top talents out there. Like, his legacy lives on.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way to put it. So it'll even just be great, I know, for a lot of wrestling fans out there to get to meet a guy who unfortunately didn't get to have the length of career that anybody would want for a guy like that. And just from what I've heard, the nicest guy in the world. Very, very involved with Pro Wrestling YEG, for those who listen to my interview with Michael Avery Cook on Wednesday's edition of Conversations with Love. But just seems like an absolutely awesome dude. I'm super excited to meet him. I know you are as well, but there's nothing else.
What more can you say?
Exactly. Like, otherwise we'd just be rambling.
Yeah.
Very excited to see TJ Wilson. Other things, Hayden, that we're very excited, and I'll get your thoughts again on this one first. At PWA Fruition on the 23rd of February at the Northgate Lions Center, The Thickness. Reed Matthews defeats Kenneth Anthony to win the PWA Mayhem Championship in a tables match. Now, number one, and we'll sort of spin this into a bit of a review of two matches here because you and I have talked about the Millennial Rebels a ton. It's probably my favorite story going on in Albertan wrestling right now, to be honest with you. But obviously, Colton Kelly very involved from the onset. Dr. Kyoto very involved from the onset. But late in the match, when it looks like sort of the numbers advantage had taken over the Thickness's ability to compete, the Titan, the Millennial Mountain, interferes on the Thickness's behalf, aligning with the guy who obviously famously turned at last year's 17th anniversary show. So to spin out of that, we will have Kenneth Anthony versus the Titan. And we will also have for the PWA Mayhem Championship, the Thickness Reed Matthews, the current champion after defeating Kenneth Anthony, versus Colton Kelly in what, number one, is a last man standing match. But more importantly, number two, I believe, is potentially the last chapter in this feud. And
you've got to wonder. It's a very complicated political environment right now, as far as the Millennial Rebels go. But you are correct. Like there's no chance that we don't see the other members of this faction or former members of this faction, or you know what I mean. Everybody that was 100%. Once affiliated or is still under that umbrella interfere in this match in one way or another. And we'll get to Titan's match later on, but you got to wonder if that'll play into it. But yeah, you are correct in saying that this may be your favorite story going on in Albertan wrestling right now.
It's been terrific, and this isn't a shot at any of the promotions, but when you run in different cities, whether it be Edmonton or Calgary or wherever it may be, Red Deer, whoever, it is tough to keep up incredibly consistent storylines because for the most part you are playing to 2 or 3 or so many different audiences. And I know that a lot of the companies, I talk about the PWA right now, but RCW, Monster Pro, CWE, they all do a great job of promoting on social media, but even I know that there's only so much that can do. So you do have to sort of change things up or alter things or sort of base different storylines. But just watching this across, let's even call it quote unquote 2 different promotions, PWA Edmonton, PWA Calgary, like these guys have consistently been in the same story for not only the better part of a year as far as this feud goes, but they've been aligned for years and years and years. And now it's even cool to see, like, you know, everything that's going on right now is long term. And I absolutely love that the PWA does it that
no
well.
Question. And good things take time. And
exactly.
It's not like you're watching one thing play out over the course of a month and a half. Like, this is a month-long, if not years-long feud.
Exactly.
Like, in affiliations. Like, those ties run deep.
100%.
Break each other's hearts to go at each other so much as they
It's going to be great, though, man. And even, like, the last man standing match, I absolutely love it. It's a very fitting stipulation for this feud. The two are absolutely going to kill each other. I believe, if I remember correctly, the exact quote from Colton Kelly was, "You're not going to walk out of the 18th anniversary show," or something along those lines. To be honest with you, it may have even been the Thickness that said it. It's there's so much going on when you've got all of those guys in the ring. Like, you know, I sort of undersell Dr. Kyoto's impact here right now. Like, the guy was so involved in all of this stuff in the best possible way for a manager to be involved. Like, you're watching him, people are yelling at other people over here. Like, it's cacophony in its best form.
Yeah, battle lines are drawn.
Exactly. So Kenneth Anthony versus the Titan as well to come out of that match. I think that this one's going to be great, and I think that this is a huge moment for the Titan to really, like, nothing against Kenneth Anthony. The guy is the leader of the Millennial Rebels, but, like,
it's time for the Titan to grow into who he's supposed to be.
I think I couldn't have put it any better myself. Like, you watch him feud with the Slammer over the last little bit and just how much better this guy's got to the point that, like, yeah, he was a scary dude earlier, but, like,
now he's a lovable giant. He's like the Green Giant.
The best way you can describe it is, like, even outside of sort of turning to the good side of the Force, I think that you can compare it a lot to, like, a Braun Strowman-esque. Like, when you watch Strowman off the bat, like, yeah, you were terrified, but he's still learning how to use his side and speed simultaneously in the ring, because, like, it's hard to wrestle as is. It's got to be hard to wrestle when you're, like, nearly 7 feet tall and be agile and you know, it's I think, more of an even learning curve than an average-sized individual would have.
Absolutely, and we never think about it because, you know, we grew from children into adults. But that's like, that's almost like growing from a child into a super adult. You know what I mean?
Like a mega adult.
Well, like, honestly, like, that's like 2.5, that's like 1.5 men. Because I didn't want to say the name of 2.5 men.
No, it's like they digivolved at some point. It's like, you know, Agumon was the fully formed, you know, Digimon.
From like Aga or whatever.
No, see, he was Agumon. That was like the full form. Yeah. But then he could temporarily digivolve into Greymon.
I know what you mean. Okay.
Right? However,
I wasn't old enough for Digimon.
It's okay. Young. A lot of people, like, you know, you get your Pokemon purists. Pokemon's fantastic. I love Pokemon. But, like, you have to diversify. Digimon was great, too. So he evolves into Greymon. And it was almost as though, like, if you were to look at the Titan, it was like Agumon digivolved into Greymon. And they got stuck as just a monstrous being.
My God.
So, like, obviously, he's a terrifying man. I don't think I've undersold that one bit.
But they didn't mean for it to happen.
But I think that Kenneth Anthony, like, you know, I talk about how imposing the Titan is.
Yeah.
Kenneth Anthony is a guy who, he's quickly become one of the smartest wrestlers in the PWA. And I say quickly only in the sense that I've been consistently coming back to PWA shows over sort of the last year and a half. I know he's been with them for a while, and he's always been a very, very good wrestler. But over the last little bit, like, I don't know if something's just clicked or what, but, like, he's incredibly savvy in the ring. So I think that if anybody's going to be able to capitalize on, inexperience isn't the right word, but like, Kenneth Anthony is more experienced than the Titan.
That's true.
Right? So if anybody's going to be able to capitalize on that, I think it'd be Kenneth Anthony.
Absolutely.
And you got to factor in Dr. Kyoto.
Well, yeah, and you got to just keep in mind that, like, it goes without saying, like, he's not going to overcome the Titan with pure strength.
He doesn't have a power advantage.
No, it's going to take tactics, and it's going to take smarts.
Absolutely.
And, no, I'm looking forward as hell to this match. It's going to be wicked.
100%, man. Now, the only other match that I could find that was announced, and I could be wrong on this one, so my apologies to anyone if I am, but the main event of PWA's 18th anniversary show, a TLC match, which, if it wasn't exciting enough, it is for the PWA Championship. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't exciting enough, Sheikh Shabazz, your reigning champion, is going to be going into the match against the PWA original Marky, who returned at the Resolution Rumble a couple of months ago, who is taking on Michael Richard Blaze, who is taking on Brandon Van Danielson.
Yeah. What more? Like, this has to be the main event. I think that goes without saying.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. I think that, you know, you and I talk about it a lot, whether it be the WWE or a backyard wrestling promotion with 2 matches on it. Championships should go on last.
Yeah.
I've always believed that. And the only exception just to clarify myself, the only exception I would have for something like that is like a Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano unsanctioned match.
But that was outside the parameters of the show.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was unsanctioned.
I love NXT.
Yeah.
But I think that this is just going to be an incredible match. Number one, and I think I've just got to reference this right off the bat, is I'm more excited for this match, I think, after Fruition, purely after seeing what happened with Body Break when they were in that triple threat match with The Omen. Mm-hmm. Because I know they're 2 different teams, and I've spoken to Michael Richard Blaze, right? Like, him and Brandon Van Danielson, this isn't a knock on Mark and Bobby Sharp, but, like, those guys trained together, they grew up together, they are closer than close, they're pretty well brothers inside the ring. Mm. But I also know how much each of them wants the PWA championship. And I know that the both of them held it in tandem the last time that they were champion, but I don't know if that'd be the direction they'd go this time. And it very well could be, you know what I mean? But if either one of them were to win the championship, I don't know if they would want to share it again, just purely on the fact that, you know.
Who wants to be a co-champion?
All the time, you know? Yeah. Like, even for you and I, we're brothers, literally. Mm-hmm. And it would be cool to, like, sort of freebird a championship. But at some point...
Well, I want to fight you for the host position.
Like That's absolutely... I can't wait until you and Parker are hosting this thing and I'm, like, producing it.
Do you think you're gonna retire from this and move on?
I'm gonna be like producer Tim for Jay and Dan.
Man, you've never even told me that. Why would you drop that on the podcast?
Because it'll never happen. This is all hypothetical.
It's like Steve leaving Blue's Clues. And then like his weird ass brother coming and taking over.
Second Steve?
I forget what his name was.
I don't know what his name was either.
That was your generation.
That's essentially just Second Steve.
Exactly, but that's just okay.
But either way, much like Second Steve, the Western line.
Yeah, not a worthwhile transition. But
no, not at all.
But you are right. Like it's easy to understand a partnership the first time around. Mm-hmm. But once you've been through that, and when it results in a loss, like why would you want to team up with that person again?
Exactly, and not to say that it wasn't a successful reign. Like those guys,
no, not to disparage
if they weren't a year, like I'll be honest, I think when I was talking to MRB about it, like it was a day or 2 days under a year or over a year. Like it was right on that 360.
It was from show to show, wasn't it?
Pretty well,
yeah.
And you know,
I forget what show was it. Do you remember offhand?
I'll be quite honest.
Well, we weren't there for either of them.
That was the Jay Lethal show. That was Night of Champions.
Yes.
Night of Champions 17, I believe.
Yes. Jay Lethal won. That's when Sheik Shabazz cashed in.
It's a tough sentence to say. Well, and just to transition there, you know, I love the Western Lions. I could talk all about them, but I could also talk all about Sheik Shabazz. The guy is he's a champion's champion.
Yeah.
I have no other way to put it, man. Like the guy is a deserving champion. The guy beat Jay Lethal. And I don't really have any other way to put it. Like,
well, after a match with the Western Lions,
even then, man, like Jay Lethal to me is one of the premier wrestling talents in the world. Like overall.
So is John Cena when Edge beat him.
Yep, and that's a fair point as well. But I do think that the Sheik, number one. So you talk about a champion's champion. Like I'd say the same thing about Edge. Right?
I completely agree, but like they won it under dubious circumstances.
That's fair.
Definitely.
That's fair.
You are right. Like he's grown into his own man. Like away from the Western Lions.
Exactly.
He doesn't need two people to defend it. He can defend it himself, like a traditional champion.
100%. And last month when he teamed with Marky, like unfortunately he was on the receiving end of a pretty brutal beatdown at the end of the match. Just it's hard to fight two guys at once, nonetheless three guys, and especially when you thought that one was on your side. So, like, this is nothing against Marky. I feel like I would do the same thing if I was heading into a championship match, is sort of try and take as much advantage as I can. So, Marky hitting a leg drop off of a ladder, completely understandable.
Completely.
But you can also understand, like, the Sheik can only take so much. That's all there is to it, right? So, I think that him going into this, not only are we going to get Sheik Akbar Shabazz, the PWA champion, at his best, but we are going to get a fired up Sheik Akbar Shabazz at his absolute best.
But are we also going to get a fired up PWA original?
100%.
Marky.
100%, Hayden, because
the last man in this match.
He is perhaps the guy that I associate most with the PWA of anyone I can think of. And when you've got a name like the PWA original, I mean, it seems a bit obvious, but the guy potentially had one of the greatest storylines we ever got to watch come through PWA. Like, we talk about the Millennial Rebels now. Do you remember him coming out at the Resolution Rumble as one of the Nightmares and pulling the mask off at the end? Like,
I do.
That's one of the truly great moments that I remember from my early days of watching wrestling. Because that was, what, 2013 or 14, if I remember correctly?
I believe it was 14.
Somewhere around there. I'm not great with the numbers on these, admittedly.
You remember him winning the PWA championship?
Yep. You remember when Bobby Boucher showed up at halftime and the Mud Dogs won the Bourbon Bowl?
Yep. I can't do a good enough impression. That's garbage.
But either way,
delete that from.
No, we're leaving that in there. Yeah. I think that he's going to be coming out fired up because maybe he does have something to prove to a bit of a new generation of PWA fans, and it's not that he's been gone for a crazy long time. Like, from what I can recall, it's a year, couple years, perhaps.
Yeah. In that
Again,
ballpark.
I'm not the best with dates here. Like, this is purely in Mike the ref's hands here.
Yeah, but he's been notable in his absence.
Exactly, and not that PWA's lacked anything, but the way I would describe it is like when you get a major return in WWE.
That's exactly it.
Right? Because over the last year, it's one of the things that you and I have talked about a lot. Like, it frustrates me so much. Like, yeah, Raw will have bad shows. Raw will have great shows. Over the last year, I would say that WWE has had a banner year.
Yeah.
100%.
Like
so,
2018, or
So-
at least some parts of it were moderately down. 2015 was a great year. 2016 was a great year.
Yeah. So
17,
just to
18.
make the comparison there is like, you wouldn't quote unquote say that WWE is lacking anything, but bringing a guy like Batista back is huge.
Bringing a guy like Goldberg back is huge.
Exactly.
Even Cena, like, since you can now consider him a part-timer, like, every time you see him back, it's always a major boost.
Exactly.
But it's not like you don't enjoy watching it the vast majority of the time. Like,
100%.
aside from those notable shit episodes.
And it
But,
happens.
yeah.
But bringing a Marky back, who is a guy that I think people can compare to a guy like a John Cena or a Batista, or like someone you could reasonably consider like a legend on that level. So to have a guy like him back in the PWA, competing for the PWA championship at one of, if not the premier show, because like Night of Champions to me is also just like, it's becoming a WWE's like WrestleMania to SummerSlam.
That's
like, they're
exactly
both
it.
huge.
Like, it's the obvious comparison. It's the biggest show of the year. Like, comparably, but like I certainly think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, you always bust out the big matches, and how can you get a bigger PWA championship match at this point?
I completely agree, Hayden. So let's end it pretty quickly here, because we're going to take a short break here on episode 33 of Over the Top Rope on the WCSN. Hayden, who's your pick to walk away PWA champion?
It's a tough call. Like it sincerely is. But if I'm gonna bank on anybody, I think I'm gonna go with Marky.
All
I think
right.
he walks out with it.
Alrighty,
Triumphant
man.
return.
I think that the Sheik is going to, and I say this after just watching the display from fruition, like, I knew the guy was tough. The beating that guy can take is immense. And I think that that's going to be the difference between all of them in this one, is just like, it's going to be cacophony. Everybody's going to get destroyed. And I just think that, much like that triple threat, anyone can win it. I'm not going to be surprised at anyone winning it, but Sheik Shabazz stands tall.
Guess we'll have to wait and see, Spencer.
100%, and you guys can join us when we finally get to see, after this proverbial waiting and seeing period Hayden speaks of, on March 23rd at the NAIT Gymnasium. You can pick up your tickets at Pause the Cat Cafe, Variant Edition, Edmonton, or from any PWA superstar, including Kurt Sorokin, the founder of PWA. Great
Oh my
guy.
God.
Great guy. Will sell you tickets. I can vouch for that because he's sold me tickets in the past.
He's your dealer.
He's my ticket dealer. So when you've got the chance, get out there, support your local independent wrestling. You've got a great opportunity to watch a great show on March 23rd in Edmonton. Hayden and I will be there. I know a number of other people are going to be there, but you're not there for us. You're there to check out the PWA. It's going to be great, guys. When we come back on Over the Top Rope, a couple of other good housekeeping items for the Albertan wrestling scene to take care of. We're also going to chat about the WWE. We're going to chat about who the next Paul Heyman guys are. There's lots coming up on Over the Top Rope, so stay tuned on Backbreaker Media, a proud member of the Win Column Sports Network.
Well, this is Chris Parrish,
And Maniac
and if you want to hear a podcast that's a little bit of all right,
and Strugglelicious.
yeah, and if you want to get involved with everything that is pro wrestling, everything that is, what, NHL, NFL, NBA,
Nah, not really, but a little bit of that and baseball.
yeah, ball sports,
Ball sports!
then come to Backbreaker Media, which is a division of Win Column Sports Network, and listen to the sounds of struggle.
Sounds of struggle!
And let me tell you this, if you're not into the sounds of struggle, then guess what? We don't care, because we only like the people that listen to us.
That's true.
And that,
listen to that! We're out of time!
so on top of that, we say later, bitches.
Welcome back to Over the Top Rope on Backbreaker Media. We're the flagship podcast of the Win Column Sports Network. Hayden, we've talked a lot about the PWA. We're going to get a little bit back to him in a second here, but I want to move on to real Canadian wrestling. A lot going on with them. Obviously, a multitude of shows being announced as far as new locations, new shows, new talents, all of that sort of thing. But I want to talk about the past a little bit here. RCW Primal Rage was last weekend. We did have Moose in town as well as in Calgary, but unfortunately neither of us able to make that show. But it was very, very exciting to get to see a guy like that in town.
Absolutely.
I think that... Sorry, you had a point.
No, I was going to say, continuing with the trend in new, we could talk about the new champion, but no, let's start with Moose.
You know what? And that actually it really ties in nicely here. Obviously, Moose defeating Sydney Steele the night prior in Calgary, March 8th. March 9th sees RCW's Primal Rage in Edmonton. Moose versus the Viking King Andrew Hawks in the main event. Of course, the RCW Canadian Heavyweight Champion heading into the match, Andrew Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
And what an excellent match. You know, we talked about him a little bit in the last show, but the guy is someone who every time I've gotten to watch him, I've been excited to watch, like enough that he gets to get 2 segments in this show. But him and Moose, put on an absolute classic on Saturday night. You can catch it all on Backbreaker Media's VOD channel. When Mike the Ref has it up, it's always incredibly soon. To be honest with you, I know how busy he is. I haven't talked to him all day, so I'm not 100% sure on when you guys can get that on the VOD channel, but rest assured, Mike the Ref is on it. Either
Beautiful.
way.
Thank God. And no, I'm bummed that I missed this show too. Like, I don't think I've been a fan of Moose as long as you have, and this would have been my first opportunity to see him live, second opportunity to see a full-length match of his. But hell, he impressed me. Like, he's still one of the most athletic guys out there, and
100%.
I think he didn't necessarily start the trend of the athletic big guy, but he was definitely amongst the first.
I'd agree.
Really to break into that sort of super heavyweight / cruiserweight. I don't even know how to define it, but you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, a bigger guy who still moves athletically. The guy is
An athletic big
absolute
man.
monster. Obviously, there's a reason he played in the NFL. It's because the guy is good at not only sports entertainment, but sports overall. Unfortunately, Moose was defeated by Hawks on Saturday night. However, in genuinely a shocking moment, like, Hawks takes a beating, Sweet Daddy Soul cashes in his guaranteed championship briefcase, becomes the champion in an absolutely... he wanted a stunner, so I'm going to say a stunning move.
You took the words out of my mouth.
And not stunning that he won it. Like, the guy's absolutely insanely talented, but it's always surprising when you get a sort of... Like we talked about Sheik Shabazz earlier in the show. Like, it's shocking when he came out against Jay Lethal. It was shocking when Sweet Daddy Soul came in.
Yeah, and if the match was as good as you said it was between Moose and Hawks, I guess I should say, you're not really considering that. You're never thinking about sort of the aspect of the briefcase looking in the background.
Exactly, and the nice thing is RCW,
Lurking.
like Sweet Daddy Soul, I should even say, not even RCW in general. Sweet Daddy Soul has played his cards so well. It's not like he's even been really teasing it lately. When I feel like you have that element of surprise, you're going to nail it every time.
True.
So, excellent for Sweet Daddy Soul. Very, very happy to see him as the Canadian heavyweight champion. However, just to sort of sidetrack on this one, March 22nd, Andrew Hawks versus Bryce the Slammer Sova in
Jesus
RCW.
Christ.
I believe that's in Calgary. More interesting, Hayden, before we get back to a recap here on Primal Rage, it's in a loser leaves Alberta match. So according to the stipulation, whoever loses this match is no longer allowed to compete, I believe, like, for good in the Alberta
Yeah,
independent
that's what the name suggests.
wrestling scene.
How much clearer can you get? Unless you say it in Spanish.
It's El Prohibidado.
Yeah.
But I would be super excited to go down to Calgary and see this match. I believe it's in Calgary. I shouldn't even mention that all that often. But Hawks versus Slammer is going to be an absolute banger, man. And I don't remember the last time Slammer appeared for RCW. I could not be more excited. I hope the guy's up in Edmonton. And I know, obviously, wrestling with PWA, you get a great chance to see him if he's in RCW. Like, wherever Slammer wrestles in Edmonton, like, hail Slammer. I'm excited to see him.
He's a draw.
Absolutely.
And rightfully so. Like, he was a stalwart of PWA for the past, do I want to say 2 years? If that, if not
Maybe
longer.
longer than that,
I think the
man.
first time I saw him was 2 years ago, so that's what I'm basing it off of. But it's going to be cool to see him in RCW.
I completely agree. Again, I don't know how long he's been with either promotion because I know he's wrestled for RCW previously, but it's always an interesting stipulation when you get something like this. Now, this is nothing against the Slammer because I will sing the guy's praises till the day I die. And I also have to give my plug here for his interview on Two Baked Hams featuring the single greatest story I've ever heard from anyone ever. Would highly suggest anyone listening to this, like, I'd even say immediately stop listening and go and find that one.
Well, you're just selling us short then, Spencer.
Dude, it's seriously, you know which one I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
We just can't mention the one because this is a PG podcast for the most part.
Yeah, more or less.
Even if this was an explicit podcast, this may take it too far. But a loser leaves anywhere match, loser leaves town style match, I'm always excited for. And I think that Andrew Hawks is a guy who just lost his championship. And again, we talked about it earlier, who lost his championship under dubious means.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to come out motivated. I just really, really hope that. I've got to be honest with you, man. Like, selfishly, I would love to see some sort of DQ finish where nobody has to leave, but
that very well could be it. Like, it's not like it's a loser leaves Calgary or loser leaves Edmonton match. Like, it's leave Alberta.
That's travel time for us.
Yeah.
I'll be selfish there. I know that, like, those two are going to beat the hell out of each other until one of them wins, which is very fortunate for whoever gets to watch it. It'd be one of those matches where you're immediately excited.
Yeah.
Like Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, where immediately you're just sad.
And with these type of stipulations, like it's going to be hard to believe that it could end in a DQ. Like, somebody's going to have to take off.
Exactly, man. So
to the great north. Excuse me. Stumbled over my words.
That's fine. I'm excited for the match. I'm not excited for whoever leaves to leave. But back to Primal Rage. A little bit on the women's side because we can't talk a lot about a match that didn't officially start. Angelica and Envy supposed to have a no DQ street fight. I was super excited. Those two have a hell of a match every time they wrestle.
Well, how did it end early?
So, Envy was entering, and Angelica, like, you've been to the RCW, I believe, I forget the name of the venue. Basically, they enter through the curtain on the one end, and then there's the set of doors on the other, and Angelica basically just came out and jumped her. So, Envy and Angelica are brawling, chairs are flying, like, Angelica, man, like, she's a hell of a wrestler, and, you know, Envy as well, they both bring out the best in each other, but I don't think I've ever seen, like, a vicious side of Angelica like this, man. Like, she's throwing Envy into chairs, beating the absolute hell out of her, and, like, Envy's a hell of a wrestler, man.
Yeah,
it takes a lot, exactly, and that's all there is to it. I'm very excited for when that match actually happens because it's going to be a banger. But I mean, there's not really much else that we can say about a match that failed to start. I'm upset. I'm upset, guys. I'm upset. You've upset a fan who wanted to see a much longer beating with a finish.
Well, yeah, but it just makes it all that more worthwhile in the future.
I don't know. I'm semi-kidding.
Upset and angry.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Understandably so, Spencer.
It's because for me, like, those two, like I said, they bring out the best in each other. They're both two incredible wrestlers. And anytime you are deprived of an elongated match,
especially a no DQ match,
especially a no DQ street fight.
Wow.
Deadly.
Double stipulations.
Exactly.
Christ.
Right?
Yeah, that just makes it worse.
Either way, man, I'm excited for when the match happens. I said it already. I'll say it again. Anytime these two wrestle, it's terrific. Sydney Steele versus Chris Parrish for the PPW Heavyweight Championship.
PPW.
Yeah, Pure Power Wrestling.
I've never even heard of it, to be honest.
Down in Lethbridge, and actually it's
that
something
would explain it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a promotion that I unfortunately haven't had the chance to go down to yet, but Sydney Steele consistently wrestles down there. Parrish, obviously the PPW Heavyweight Champion. Mm-hmm. Angelica wrestles down there. A lot of the RCW talent does wrestle down there fairly consistently. And I'm very excited to head down there as well. Obviously, my interview with Angelica a couple weeks ago, we talked about it a little bit. I've got a couple exciting interviews coming up that I am not at full disclosure to speak about yet with some people down there.
Who?
Oh, I cannot tell you.
Oh, I said who. I know that you said.
However, it's something that I want to go and check out. But like you said, it's a promotion that unfortunately, because it's down in Lethbridge, until I started going out to RCW shows I'd never heard of either. But either way, that's neither here nor there. It's for the PBW Heavyweight Championship on Saturday, which I don't know if it has ever been defended outside of Lethbridge.
Well, not to my knowledge, obviously.
Yeah, and neither do mine.
Yeah.
But it was an absolutely great match. Like, Sidney Steele is a guy who I'm really just getting familiar with. I guess him and Parrish have a very, very long history that I'd be really interested to find out more about, actually. So maybe one of these days. But
Well,
Parrish,
could you find out about it on the Backbreaker Media video on demand service?
I can only watch matches there, Hayden. I cannot find out about Sidney Steele the person. Chris Parrish, obviously, great individual. I mean, the guy's got a commercial on our show.
That's true.
But a terrific match from the two. Like, right from the onset of Parrish coming over to RCW, even with Maniac, who unfortunately wasn't there on Saturday night. But Maniac, he wrestled Sidney Steele in his first match in RCW. Sidney Steele was part of the match against Chris Parrish and Maniac, along with Cameron Stevens, on what was their last show's name? I completely
RCW's?
forgot. Yeah, the last one you and I went to. Tag Struggles, basically.
No, I know the
Either
match that
way,
you're talking
let's
about.
not belabor the point.
We're horrible with show names.
It's tough. There's a lot. And
Yeah.
in the best possible way. RCW is doing a great job again out there. But these guys were terrific together. I wish you would have seen this match, Hayden. We talk about the Backbreaker Media Network. Check this one out. Because it's... when two guys are just good in the ring together, they're just good in the ring together. It's one of those times you and I like to say on the show, like, go watch the match is the best possible compliment you can give it, right?
Yeah.
Parrish and Steele are consummate professionals. I know that Steele down in Lethbridge, like he's just basically a highly touted wrestler down there, especially because obviously with being your home promotion. But as a guy that I'm just starting to get familiar with up here a lot, he's very, very good.
I was gonna say I think that extends across all of Alberta.
100%.
Yeah.
The last match that I really wanted to touch on here, Dylan Stone and Pride again faced off, and I love it every time these two are in the ring together, man.
Yeah.
Like, Stone is relatively new to consistently being in RCW. There's a lot of weird ways you have to describe wrestlers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's made appearances for him before, but he is really consistently appearing. He was mostly a CWC guy for the longest time, but has now started consistently coming up to RCW in anticipation of the merger. And these two guys are just, they're like butter in the ring, man. They're smooth. They are great together. They pull out all the stops. They do it a number of different ways. Like, these guys are completely underrated. Much the way we talk about Pride, like, really making a name for himself last year. I think Stone, now that he's starting to get out more, and, you know, I don't know how much the CWC did between Calgary or anything like that. And I also know that he's just a busy guy outside of that. So,
Well, both of these guys are on the rise, and, you know, rightfully so. Like, both are absolutely friggin' fantastic wrestlers. Pride in particular, I really like his work. And yeah, I'm bummed that I missed this match, too. That's just a constant theme of this sort of episode.
well, it is unfortunate, man.
Well,
Shoot,
yeah.
life gets in the way, and, like, you're working a job that requires you to be places on
That's true.
Saturday nights.
That's true.
Last point I wanted to touch on, RCW will be starting their shows at 7 o'clock now,
My God.
which is a very underrated portion of this show.
No,
because
that really is nice.
let me tell you,
That
like,
really is.
RCW shows are always great, man, but when they're ending at 10:30 or 10:45 or 11 o'clock, like, not only are the fans tired, but, like, wrestlers are naturally tired, I would assume, by that point in the day. They're
Yeah.
human beings.
Exactly.
Right?
And they're fans, too, for the most part.
So, good for RCW there.
Yeah.
Lots of exciting things coming up from the promotion, Hayden, because two more things that I want to touch on here before we take a quick break. RCW bringing in for their 16th anniversary show, which is coming up in May. I believe it's 4th and 5th. Gangrel of the Brood heading to Edmonton and Calgary for appearances, as well as Ring of Honor star Matt Taven.
Yeah, two big names.
Huge names for different reasons. Super excited for Gangrel. I'm pretty sure everybody I talked to that grew up as a wrestling fan was a fan of the Brood.
Oh, absolutely. If not just for their theme alone, but just because Edge, Christian, Gangrel, perfect combination.
Excellent theme.
Yeah.
Excellent theme. Excellent sunglasses.
Yeah,
I think
kind
that those-
of scary too with the fake blood.
Very frightening.
And I remember I was kind of frightened. I looked at the TV screen. And, yeah.
Well, man, and the cool thing about them was, like, again, I was young here, so I'm sure I'm going to get jumped on at points here. So they sort of stood alone at that point. Like, it wasn't like they were ever aligned with, like, corporate ministry or anything like that. Like, it was just sort of the Brood.
That's
like,
true.
not the best comparison, but, like, it's the way that Sting was always Sting. Like, sort of his own individual component.
Yep.
Outside
That's a great
of the
comparison.
NWO universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they were really cool. And Matt Taven, just overall fantastic wrestler.
Yeah,
Like,
former
when
Ring
you're
of
the guy-
Honor, former Ring of Honor tag team champion with
Yep.
Mike Kanellis or Mike Bennett, Ring of Honor television champion, New Japan.
Beat Adam Cole.
Yeah.
I almost said Andrew Hawks again. Beat Adam Cole for that TV championship
What a
too,
coup.
which is like, it's big. I
Yeah.
love seeing guys come over here that, like, even I admittedly am not hugely familiar with a ton of his work. I couldn't go front to back and give
Neither
you a
am I.
biography on the guy. So for me, I almost love seeing people like this more than people I'm obscenely familiar with, because, man, I love wrestling. I love learning about new wrestlers, and he's a guy that, you know, is sort of the perfect mix between a guy I know and a guy I don't know.
Yeah. What a beautiful way to put it, Spencer.
Thank you, Hayden.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing I want to touch on here, RCW Madness coming up this Saturday in Vegreville, Alberta. Great place to go.
And,
Check out the giant Pysanka while you're there.
Yeah, head there 2 or 3 hours early. Get some pictures, maybe
From different angles, the egg does lean, and you catch different angles of it.
an early dinner. Maybe try to climb the egg, get on top, climb down.
I think that's illegal. I believe for legal purposes here have to say that we do not condone anybody climbing the Vegreville Pysanka.
But how big is the mentioned Pysanka?
You know, Hayden, I believe that is a great question. A great question.
Elmer Fudd.
The Vegreville Pysanka. How do you spell Pysanka?
Pysanka.
Oh, no. Here we go. So you do that one again, and I'll give you the spelling here.
Pysanka.
Nicely done. I thought you said P-I-S. I was like, no, that's not right.
No.
It's just called the Vegreville Egg
Oh.
on Wikipedia.
Well,
The
because
Vegreville Pysanka, the Easter egg.
Yeah, because nobody would know what a Pysanka is.
They've got an exact replica. Just, if anybody here is curious, they've got an exact replica of it on eBay for $181.95.
But is it also is it a scale model or is
I
it
believe it's a
full-size
scale model.
Pysanka?
I don't think that you're going to get any sort. Where would you store it?
Backyard. Vegreville.
In your backyard.
Right in
Just
front
keep
of
it
the
there?
other Pysanka.
A slightly bigger Pysanka.
On the
This,
complete
ladies and
opposite
gentlemen, is
side of the
exactly
world.
why we wanted to talk about Vegreville, Alberta.
Yep.
There's a lot of great matches happening at the show, but the Vegreville Pysanka is a sight to see. So the show, I'm assuming, will start at 7 o'clock again. However, get there at about 3.
Go on.
Just to clue on here, so the egg is 31 feet or 9 meters long, 3.5 stories high,
Jesus.
and weighs in at an astounding 2.5 tons or 5,512 pounds. Oh, God. Here we go. And I think the town of Vegreville may be a little mad about this one. It is the second largest Pysanka in the world. The biggest one is built in Kolomia. I can't pronounce it. I'm very sorry. I'm butchering that. Kolomia, Ukraine in 2000.
Well, that kind of makes sense. Like,
There's your fun fact. There's the Wikipedia.
I don't think the Ukrainians would let Canadians have the world's largest Pysanka.
That's fair. Paul Maxim Symboliak, 1929, still alive.
Wow.
The designer of the Vegreville egg or Pysanka for you Ukrainians out there.
I wonder if anybody's attempted to steal the Pysanka.
Your last fun fact, and then we'll get back to wrestling. The software created to guide the lasers which cut the Pysanka's tile was eventually purchased and used for the exterior tiles of the space shuttle.
Oh.
So not only is the Vegreville Pysanka benefiting the town of Vegreville's bustling economy, its tourism industry, but it's also helping out in space. There you guys go. One more great thing about Vegreville is that on March 16th, for the first time ever, it will be hosting Michael Richard Blaze of the Western Lions. God's gift to wrestling to Chris Parrish, Mr. PWI, one of the most respected names on the independent circuit. You could say that for both of them.
Yeah, no question, man. This is going to be an excellent match.
I cannot hype this one enough. I really have to be honest with you, Hayden. Like, we're talking about a lot of the Alberta independent dream matches, and I know for a lot of people, much in the way that Blaze versus Pride was, and for those who aren't consistently in Red Deer, much in the way that Pride versus Parrish was. I think that this is sort of the last of the three, and hopefully, I believe it's already been announced even, we're going to get a triple threat. Not even hopefully, I know it is, as my brain clues in again. March 29th in Radway, we're finally going to get a triple threat between Pride, MRB, and Chris Parrish, sort of a return to the scene of the crime of the original Alberta Indie Dream match. But I couldn't be more excited for this, man. Like, it says a lot when we've got Impact's Cody Daner coming in for the show. Excited for him, but like,
more excited for this.
That's exactly it.
Yep.
These are two of the best in the business, two of my personal favorites, two excellent professional wrestlers, two shining examples of why Alberta's wrestling industry is great.
Yeah, no question. Like, and I couldn't put it any better. Like, out of the three, I think this is, and no injustice to the other pairings, but this has got to be my most anticipated match out of all of them.
And I don't think you'd be the only one to say that, Hayden. Like, it's going to be great. No other way to put it. I'm not even going to go through and pick a winner. If anybody's interested, feel free to let us know on Win Column Sports at Twitter. You can hit us up at WC Sports CA. You can also get us anywhere else on pretty well any form of social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can find us at either Backbreaker Media, unless it's on Twitter because it doesn't have an A because we're Canadian. It says Mike the Ref, or Win Column Sports. When we come back on this week's edition of Over the Top Rope, Hayden and I have some good housekeeping as far as wrestling overall goes. Let's talk about the WWE. Lots going on that end, Hayden. Let's chat about it when we come back from this word from Power Slam TV on Over the Top Rope.
Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 3,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 100 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
Welcome back. It's Over the Top Rope on Backbreaker Media. Hayden and I are in the studio talking about wrestling today and the Vegreville Pysanka, which is unfortunately not the final segment of this week's Over the Top Rope. Hayden, lots going on the road to WrestleMania in the WWE as we sort of touch base on the proverbial major leagues right now. Fastlane last week, we've got obviously an outstanding episode of Monday Night Raw, at least in this viewer's opinion. Good SmackDown, a couple things coming out of that as well, including a few announced WrestleMania matches. But let's start at the top. Let's start at the pay-per-view. We only watched a bit of Fastlane, family dinners, which obviously take priority. However, from what I got to see of the replays and the pay-per-view itself, but I think that WWE has genuinely been on like a real hot streak as far as their pay-per-views go lately.
Yeah, I gotta agree.
It's been good. I think the Fastlane continues to trend. I think that obviously a lot of factors at play here, but the Shield, a huge highlight for me. When you're going up in a match against Baron Corbin and Bobby Lashley, there's very little many can do to make me want to tune in, and especially when they're announced as a third of the main event between those two wrestlers. Yeah. I sometimes want to punch myself in the face because that just seems like a bad idea.
To each their own, Spencer.
Dude, they have really dragged down, in my opinion, a Drew McIntyre run in WWE that was red hot heading into this sort of unholy alliance.
I have to agree with that, but I'll never not use this insider term, just so everybody knows. I'll never not mark out for Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin. Two of the best on the roster, in my opinion.
Somehow, and we'll talk about the new Intercontinental Champion here in a minute, but somehow Bobby Lashley has not done any better than that stupid Sisters sketch he did like last year.
Spencer,
there has been no marked improvement in this viewer's eyes.
I think there has been a significant improvement.
Lio Rush is a great talker. I prefer Lio Rush as a singles wrestler because at least like I hate him for all the right reasons. I hate Bobby Lashley because he's bad. Half of his gimmick is showing his ass to the camera. Half of his gimmick is wearing a dumb headband. Half of his gimmick is being okay at wrestling.
Okay, man, bear pig. He's 50% man, 50% bear.
It's half man, half bear pig.
Yep. Half bear, half pear.
Yeah, but, not a fan, but it takes a lot on that end to make me want to watch, and the Shield did so.
But, I mean, going back to his...
man, bear, pigness?
No, to actually the comment you made about his sisters tying him to the tree. He's a scarred man. Like, you have to take that into consideration.
What an atrocious segment that was.
But I do have to agree with you to some extent.
People don't bring that up nearly enough in like when you're talking about a moment of bliss. Like that segment was worse.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, and then you can make these comparisons, forever, essentially. That's not even an exaggeration.
No, I know you can go back to pretty well any segment over any time, and that sister's sketch may have been worse than it. You can make a fair argument as to why it was worse than any sketch in history. I would have time for an argument for it.
Maybe on a later podcast. Or maybe you could just record a solo podcast of 15
I'll be like, who is that guy at the end
of
of 60 Minutes? Man, there's going to be some people listening to this thing. I thought this was a wrestling podcast. So I got the Alberta stuff out of the way early. This is for the dedicated listeners of Over the Top Rope.
Was it Bob Stafer?
All two of them. No.
Morley, what was his name?
No, it wasn't Morley Schaefer either.
No, it was Morley Schaefer.
No, what was the guy at the end?
Scott Pelly?
No, he passed away. I almost want to say Andy Rooney. It was Andy Rooney. I think I'm just confusing him with Mickey Rooney, and that's why I'm not as confident as I should be with this one. But yeah, I think it was Andy Rooney.
They have a wide and very well-respected cast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but they're not to say that they're interchangeable, but they're easy to mix up. That's for certain.
Jaguars.
Yeah, I forget who that was. Bob Simon. That's who that was.
Oh, Bill Hader.
Yeah.
Sorry, to get back to the actual wrestling side of it. The Shield's reunion, or their last time ever, if that's how it truly ends up being, for the opponents you had, you did it as well as you could do it. Like, for me, I feel as though if you were going to have the Shield get a final run, I know that they've had obviously some bad luck with Roman Reigns getting the bumps and Dean Ambrose injury and those sorts of things. They never really got a chance at a truly great final run.
No.
I would have loved to have seen like a run against the Wyatt family or a run against the Undisputed Era. Obviously, there's so many dream feuds if this truly turns out to be the last time that they wrestled together. But for the opponents they were given, for the circumstances, the sort of short term that they were given to get their final hurrah,
Yeah.
I think they played it perfectly.
And you are correct. Like, singles matches aside, the Shield have so many matches left on the table. That may not just be possible in 2-3 years or however long Ambrose is gone, if he is gone. Like, that always has to be marked with an asterisk.
Yep, and when you even say like the 2-3 years, like if he comes back.
Exactly. But they never even had a truly great WrestleMania feud. If any WrestleMania feud as a group, aside from their match against, the New Age Outlaws and Kane. Which is
that was rough justice.
I think it was like 1 minute and 46 seconds.
As it should have been. Their entrance took longer.
Yeah, it truly did, I think.
What a great entrance, though.
Yeah. But, I mean, I forgot where we were going with that.
The New Age Outlaws.
Yeah. That always takes my mind off of things. And not in a good way.
Not generally.
Yeah.
I have a lot of time for Billy Gunn. I'll be honest with you there.
Yeah.
But... yeah, man, I think that if you're really looking at it, like, I'm even almost still left wanting for another match with the Wyatt family as a dream match, despite the fact that they've wrestled before. Like, I think the Undisputed Era is truly, to me, the match that's left on the table here. I would have almost said that at some point, should this have continued along a linear path, that the Undisputed Era would eventually beat the Shield at Mania. Would have been huge.
That
Even now, to me, that sounds like a huge main event.
Yeah, and that looking into the future, that would have been blockbuster, and that could still happen. I mean, like you do never know.
Guys, we only speculate, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We don't have any inside knowledge.
And I mean, the club versus the Shield in some incarnation.
With Gallows and Anderson rumored to leave.
Yeah. Evolution in another run, maybe Ric Flair, Batista, and Triple H.
You'll never see Ric Flair and Batista together again, and we'll get into that in the Raw segment of the show, which will be fairly quick. But the other thing I did want to touch on as far as Fastlane goes, obviously we got Kofi Kingston proving again why babyfaces are dumb. They are always dumb. Number one, he waited an hour for Vince McMahon. And I understand he's Vince McMahon, but like an hour on a pay-per-view night? Come on, man. Yeah. Number two, you really went out to the ring expecting to be included in that championship match? No. No, absolutely not. Vince McMahon doesn't do things because you've convinced him to do things on TV. That doesn't happen. Vince McMahon isn't convinced. That doesn't happen. So when Vince suddenly turns about and, you know what, it's going to be a championship match and get out to the ring. No. Something's always up. And the thing is like, wasn't suspicious. New Day banned from ringside? Not suspicious.
Not at all.
Right?
And
I say, like, baby faces are dumb in the best possible way because, like, there's all these people, like, you look at Brian Alvarez. This was horrible. Way to bury a talent or whatever his tweet was about it.
That's a completely different take on it.
I just think it's completely the wrong one. I think you look at... I never like comparing things to Daniel Bryan because to me, in my current time as a wrestling fan, that's still, like, the most magical run, to use an overused phrase, that I've ever gotten to watch was Daniel Bryan to WrestleMania 30. So, watching Kofi Kingston right now, like, this could very well be a Daniel Bryan-esque run.
I don't think it's going to be anywhere near the same magnitude. At least for me, as far as
that's why I say like Daniel Bryan-esque, and even like I do hesitate, but like the guy's massively popular. You have Kevin Owens versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. And Mustafa Ali, excuse me as well, because I don't mean to do that guy any disservice. He was an MVP in that match. But you're chanting, we want Kofi over two guys who, like, this was the first singles match between the two, as far as I'm aware.
And Spencer, you can always bring up Zack Ryder and what became of that.
Oh, man, if this was a fatal four-way.
Yeah. But I think it's a different situation from Zack Ryder. Like, it's a situation all on its own because it happened by circumstance.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he's caught fire, and I think he's gonna go to WrestleMania, whether that be a singles match or a triple threat or however it plays out. But I don't know if he's gonna win the title or not. But back to your main point, I do agree he is pretty stupid. He should have seen the writing on the wall. And you can just have this point proven once again when his teammates Xavier Woods and Big E run to the ring, only to get ambushed like fools by the reformed League of Nations.
I really hope that that's the case.
I hope so, and I hope they use the same theme song. That was a wicked group.
If they use this as a way to bring back Bad News Barrett, I am going to just lose it.
Even if it's just for NXT UK, even if he just comes back to establish himself on the main roster.
What if it's as a face to take down the reformed League of Nations?
I've had enough of this nonsense.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news for the League of Nations.
That's fantasy booking at its finest, Spencer.
I think so too.
But it's a great idea. I can only hope that we see it play out. Maybe
bring
on
back Bad News Barrett. I don't care how you bring him back by this point. Bring him back. I'm excited for Bad News Barrett.
I think he's still with ITV and World of Sport.
Believe so as well. I'd even love to hear that guy commentate a match.
He was a great commentator. I think he had some commentating or some time at the commentary table. I guess I should say.
At the commentary booth. Wasn't that bad?
It's a great accent, actually. I was going to say the opposite.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much.
Well
I
done.
appreciate it. Let's move on. Fastlane, like, not a ton outside of that, at least in this guy's opinion, to talk about.
No, not much.
A lot of good matches. Enjoyable. That is what it is.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the stuff from Raw. The first thing I want to touch on here, Ronda Rousey. Number one, isn't she just so much more fun to boo? I think that's the case with a lot of people, but, like, she's good. Like, real good as a heel, I think.
She is. And it seems like she's one of the type of people that's just inherently better as a heel, to use an insider term. Pardon me.
Thank you, Hayden.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand what we're talking about. But yeah, that was a hell of a performance on Monday.
Yeah.
Or yesterday, I guess I could say.
Yep, just to timestamp the old podcast.
Yeah.
We are recording here on the old Tuesday the 12th.
Don't have to put the old before everything, Spencer.
I know, I just didn't know. I know it frustrates you. Like, the viewers / listeners of this show don't get to see your facial expression as I say that. I did. However, the biggest thing that I wanted to touch on as far as the Ronda Rousey angle that I think may have gone a little underappreciated was the excellent performance out of Dana Brooke. And I think I got a couple of comments even that people had forgotten that she was even a member of the WWE roster.
It's the first time that we've seen her in months.
Absolutely.
If not even in like a full calendar year.
The last time I remember seeing her was when she quit Titus Worldwide.
And
to be honest
was
with
that
you,
back in like September?
I'm not 100% sure. I know there were a few matches she had after that.
August.
Yeah, but I was so happy to see this purely on the fact that, number one, she'd never been a... Dana Brooke is someone who could use improvement. And I say that as someone who's never wrestled, and she is an infinitely better wrestler than myself. But when you were to compare her to someone like a Sasha Banks, like, there's a clear difference.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
But that's the time difference. Mm-hmm. And you can't attribute that to anything but time.
Exactly, Hid. I think that she's done, number one, an excellent job of being someone, like, I still remember, I think it was her first singles match on pay-per-view against Bayley where she botched the finish of their match.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened from there, but it just seemed that from there, you know, a little bit clicked. And there was steady improvement and steady improvement and steady improvement. And I think that maybe the time off TV was to sort of exacerbate that, whether it would be on the road, whether it's at the Performance Center. Like, I don't know what the hell these guys are doing in their time when they're not on TV.
Yeah.
But when she came out, she had a confidence behind her that was just cool to see. She sounded great on the microphone. I don't know if she was just like... It was so... I was so empathetic towards her. Like,
Maybe
she just basically came out and said, look, Ronda, like, I don't know why you're doing this. I want a chance. I know I'm not on TV much. Like, it was a hell of a promo.
Yeah.
And then got absolutely ragdolled by Ronda Rousey. Like, ragdolled.
And a nice little finish to that inspiring
It was
promo.
like Mike Tyson fighting an infant.
Oh, well, yeah.
There's really no other way to put it.
That's a really nice picture to paint, Spencer.
So, Brooke gets ragdolled, and I think that it was just an... If you're looking at the booking side, it's an excellent way. I felt so bad for her. And I can honestly say I don't think I've ever felt bad for Dana Brooke. Not once.
Well, it's because she's never on TV.
I felt bad for that.
Yeah, okay.
I felt bad she wasn't on TV. This is the second time that I've felt bad for Dana Brooke.
You make an excellent point. I really do have to kneel to that.
But she did an excellent job. I just think that, like, if you even got the chance, go back, watch the promo, get your opinion on it, because I know you didn't watch Raw live.
No, I watched bits of it live.
Excuse me. I used my TiVo, so I got to use the entirety of it to watch Raw. Because 3 hours takes up the entirety of it.
Yeah. And you can just always skip over parts that you don't want to watch. But you want to watch every part of Raw.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. As a mark, to use another insider term.
What are you talking about?
Excuse me, Hayden. It's over your head.
Yeah.
Either way, Dana Brooke, terrific. Here's your big shout out. I also wanted to just touch quickly, because I know we talked about them on the Fastlane portion of this. I loved the roles of each respective member of the Shield. Through Raw, I think Seth Rollins he's been great lately. He's going to continue to be great. I have nothing but high expectations. His promo with Paul Heyman, when you look great on the mic opposite Paul Heyman, you've done a great job.
Yeah.
There's nothing much else that you can say about that. Selling the Universal Championship match, and especially when it's against Brock Lesnar, where you do have to be pretty well the only guy doing the lifting. He's done an excellent job thus far. Roman Reigns, I think, was excellent. I hope that they've set up Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, because I've talked about that match even since McIntyre came back. Those guys are two guys who, like, obviously it takes being presented well initially to build a bit of stock in Drew McIntyre's case, you know?
Absolutely.
Like when you debut on the main roster, you need to build yourself up and be presented correctly for a dream match to work out. He's been built beautifully since coming up to the main roster.
These are two guys whose styles clash perfectly.
Much like AJ Styles and Roman Reigns. Which was another excellent match of clashing styles.
Oh, wow. That's a great joke, Spencer.
I don't know. Thanks. It was okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I liked it a lot.
Now, the other big thing coming out of, just to touch on real quickly on Paul Heyman, we have a new Paul Heyman guy, a young, upcoming, spry talent in the form of 43-year-old Shelton Benjamin.
Brand new arrival to Raw. Yeah. I think he may be 44.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happy belated Shelton Benjamin. Hope it was great.
Yeah.
Hope it wasn't in transit from SmackDown to Raw.
You gotta wonder.
Either way.
Wonder if that was in the card.
Well, and you made the comment you half expected the return of Charlie Haas as well.
Yeah, that would have been a hell of a faction.
I would love to see a Team Brock versus the Shield at Mania.
Just a way to spit in the face of Kurt
Universal
Angle.
Championship.
And then maybe a Kurt Angle Brock Lesnar match at SummerSlam. But Kurt Angle announced that he's retiring.
Yeah.
I guess to hit two birds with one stone.
I believe Kurt Angle when he says he's retiring.
I concur.
This isn't a Sabu.
This
isn't the Sandman. This is not Thomas Dreamer. This is Kurt Angle. Like, I don't think any of them won a gold medal with a broken neck, had their neck completely reconstructed, and then went back into a wrestling ring to do moonsaults.
Yeah, none of them are employed by WWE.
I can't wait for the Kurt Angle appearance at a random taping somewhere of like these small independent shows that we love to go to.
Lucha Underground at this point.
The surprise Kurt Angle return.
Yeah.
El Curtis Angelus.
Who is that? Who is that guy? I've never seen him before.
The American heel. Huge heel.
He moves like a 50-year-old. And not one that's in shape.
That guy moves like a guy who broke his neck a few years ago.
It looks like he had an addiction for a while.
Looks like he was angry but learned from his mistakes. I'm not here to shit on Kurt Angle.
No. Truly a generational talent.
100%.
If not once in a while. Or once in a lifetime. Excuse me.
No worries. But Kurt Angle, unfortunately not part of Team Lesnar. We do have Shelton Benjamin as part of Team Heyman in, like, genuinely the oddest pairing of all time. I do like the idea of, like, Shelton Benjamin hired mercenary, though.
Yeah. It's kind of weird to think about, but since you put it that way, it just gets infinitely better.
Shelton Benjamin.
But it's still horrible.
Shelton Benjamin, seek and destroy.
Honestly, I would have preferred a return of the world's greatest tag team. Like, it's an established tag team. It's not really thrown together like Benjamin and Cable were. And it would just, like, it's just such an out-of-nowhere pick. Like, is it just because, you know, he sort of trained and teamed with Brock Lesnar? Is that the immediate connection?
No, I think it's because many of the wrestlers on the WWE roster are actively on TV, and Shelton Benjamin was looking for a way to make a quick buck.
Yeah.
So when Paul Heyman came a calling and said, we need a mercenary.
Well, we all forget that Ryback was a Paul Heyman guy, and Curtis Axel was a Paul Heyman guy.
Axel was a Paul Heyman team.
Was Jack Swagger a Paul Heyman guy?
No, he was a Zeb Coulter guy.
Yeah. But Cesaro certainly was a Paul Heyman guy.
I would love an I'm a Zeb Coulter guy shirt.
Yeah. I'd love a We the People shirt at this point.
But to move on from Benjamin, the one thing that I do want to talk about, and I think the member of the Shield who came out of Monday Night Raw looking the best, Dean Ambrose.
Hell of a match.
Hell of a match. I really think there's a lot of rumors on the guy, obviously, and that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother day, because there's a lot we can talk about on him. If he's staying, the guy is being built like a superstar, and if he's leaving, like, there's a lot of rumors that he's getting a sort of proverbial thank you farewell tour for doing this in a professional manner.
Yeah.
The guy couldn't be going out on a better note, I don't think. That Shield match was great. I think he'll get a marquee match at Mania. It'll be awesome, and I think that this Drew McIntyre match on Monday night was an awesome continuation of what he's been doing since even the announcement of him leaving was made.
Yeah, and like you make two excellent points. Whichever way he goes, if he does stick with WWE or decides to take time off, go to another promotion, whatever have you, like he's doing it with class. He's always been a guy that you've leaned on, like not just as a superstar, but as a workhorse, a proven draw, and a guy that you can insert into the main event, drop down to the lower card, or really fulfill any role that you needed the guy.
There's really no other way to put it, but like from an observer's role, he's been a model employee.
No kidding. And like even just outside of that, I used to hate the guy back in, even when he was WWE champion on SmackDown right after the brand split. I wasn't a huge fan. He's grown on me. He's a wicked talent, and I don't know. I'm hoping he sticks around just because you don't have to switch between a ton of other promotions just to see what he's doing. I think there's still a lot of great matches he could have too. But no, if he does go out, then he's doing it perfectly with great matches and by putting the right people over.
I completely agree, man. The other things I want to touch on quickly, Give Me What I Want was basically what we got for 4 minutes from Batista.
If not longer.
Let me tell you, though, man, like, I didn't like Triple H more than I didn't like Batista in this.
What do you want? Give me what I want. What do you want?
Batista was convincing, like, foaming at the mouth. Like,
oh, he spat a lot.
And, he was the animal.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. Number 2, I Walk Alone is quite possibly one of the greatest theme songs of all time for anything ever, anywhere.
That is indisputable.
It's fantastic. It was so good to hear it hit again. Loved it. All there is to say about that. The other major return we got on Monday night, Beth Phoenix is, I would assume, semi-officially going to return.
I think that can be all but confirmed at this point.
Now,
I think it is confirmed.
Quick conversation I wanted to have here. With Sasha Banks and Bayley appearing in so many different promotions, I guess if you want to call them, appearing across all three brands. Yep. There we go, is a better way to put it. My thought for WrestleMania is that we're going to get a triple threat or a fatal four-way. We're going to get Banks and Bayley, team from SmackDown, team from NXT, and now potentially with the returning Beth Phoenix and Natalya.
I'm all for multi-man matches. And I think this would work perfectly with the women's tag team titles at this point. Like, they're brand new. You need to establish some dominant wins if you want to, go into sort of that sort of conversation. And, following up a win over Nia Jax and Tamina, the best tag team in the world, with a win over 4 or 5 different tag teams, depending on how it pans out, that'd be a really cool way. And that'd be a great first WrestleMania match for them, too. For the tag team titles, not for, any of the teams. Yep. I guess for most of the teams. Well, if not all of the teams.
Maybe some of the teams.
Probably most of the teams.
I guess a few of the teams.
At least half of the teams.
One of the teams has to have.
A couple of the teams.
Other than that, actually, as we speak right now, SmackDown is on, so there's not a ton we can report on as far as the main event or anything like that goes. However, what we can say, we have two officially confirmed WrestleMania matches, one much, much bigger than the other. And, of course, we're talking about The Miz versus Shane McMahon, the bitter feud that developed at Crown Jewel of all places.
Yeah, an intense blood feud, a rivalry.
All over father's approval.
Yeah.
This is my hell, Hayden. I just don't see the appeal in this match. And I say that as a guy who's a fan of not only both wrestlers, but even still Shane McMahon being used in a WrestleMania role.
Yeah, and like you and I have had this conversation, I think one of our previous podcasts, I know, or at least, man to man.
On the side.
Yeah.
On a talk.
Yeah. On a serious conversation. Or in a serious conversation. But yeah, like you and I are both huge Miz and Shane fans. And even with Shane's match 2 years ago with Styles, being a great match, like, it's hard to be truly excited for this match.
I agree.
And even taking the build up into consideration. I don't think either of us mentioned that, but like it just hasn't panned out. And that happens sometimes.
Exactly. I could understand where you would come from on that match. I just don't think that the story has hit the way that people have wanted it to. And to me, that's not even from a lack of effort on anyone's part. Like, The Miz, I think, has still been consistently one of the best performers in WWE. I say it every year. I just feel like it's a fair judgment period.
Definitely.
He's been one of the best performers in WWE over the last year, quite easily. Like, heading into last year's Mania, the guy was an IC champion. The guy was an absolute stud, continued to do so all year. And even through this feud, like, he's been the MVP in it.
Absolutely.
I can't say that I'll enjoy this match as much as I feel like WWE would want me to. I have no better way to put it.
But that's exactly it. It happens.
They've done everything.
Even with two great talents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that just speaks to why Shane McMahon hasn't clicked.
But a match I am excited for, and a match that was made official tonight, Randy Orton versus AJ Styles.
Randy Orton has slowly grown on me. I think that may be just because Bobby Lashley has replaced him as my, like, soggy bread wrestler.
What about Jinder Mahal?
I like Mahal. I've always got a soft spot. I've got a soft spot for the PWA.
Okay.
I always do have a soft spot
I
for
see your
Albertan
point.
talents.
I see your point.
But Randy Orton, and especially with the fact that the guy's finally got a bit of a personality, like, anywhere, whether it be online or, like, him sneaking up at that Evolution reunion to fake the RKO on Triple H and just little stuff like that. Like, I have no other way to put it. He seems like a human being now as opposed to, like, a wrestler to me.
Well, he's
and I
grown
don't
up.
like that.
Yeah.
And AJ Styles.
AJ Styles.
Yeah. This is going to be a great match. Both of them are incredible talents.
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious that they've kept these guys. Jesus, stumbling over my words. That they've kept these guys apart for a reason, and that's because this is a WrestleMania feud.
I agree.
Outside of the few here and there tag team matchups, I think they were in the Elimination Chamber together.
Yep. Just
in
few little interactions like
2017.
that.
Yeah, and their one match on SmackDown was great, but once again, it was obvious that they were building for something else.
Yeah.
And I think this is a perfect time to pull it off. Like, Styles isn't getting any younger. They're still both in great shape. Like, Jesus, you can't stress that enough. But I think this is the right time, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I completely agree, Hayden. And as we finish up talking about some WrestleMania matches, we tell everybody out there as we close out the podcast to look forward to WrestleMania at Beercade YEG, where Hayden and I will be previewing the show on Over the Top Rope Live.
Yeah, we're probably going to be there each day this week, hanging out, playing games, having some beers.
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
And that's just weekdays. Weekends go without saying. That's,
No question.
But, we would 100% suggest coming out to Beercade YEG on 105th Street and 82nd Avenue for the show. It's going to be an absolute blast, especially when you hear about matches like that. I know we undersell Miz and Shane, but even if that's the proverbial worst, then I think we're going to be doing just fine as far as WrestleMania goes. So, Hayden, all I've got to say, man, is thank you for joining me on episode 33 of Over the Top Rope.
Thank you for having me, Spencer.
The podcast co-hosted by the Brothers of Discussion. It's always a blast having you here. It's always a blast doing this. Hayden, if people are looking to listen to the Brothers of Discussion on their audio device and or computer, where can they find us?
A couple different places. WinColumnSports.ca, the Backbreaker Media Network, Podbean, SoundCloud, iTunes Podcasts. Where else? Am I missing any?
Google Play.
Google Play as well, yeah.
Mike the Ref has a ton of stuff hooked up that I don't even know about.
We have cassettes.
We sell cassettes of each and every individual show. They cost $33 a piece. They're very expensive to produce.
We have a lot of them.
We're just very happy if we sell one. Someone please buy one.
We sincerely overestimated how many people still use cassette tape technology.
We actually recorded the first few episodes of Over the Top Rope on a small child's microphone and recording device, so
it looked like Elmo. But the quality was great.
I can't wait. People are going to listen to this. This has been a fairly off-the-rails edition of Over the Top Rope in the best possible way, Hayden. It's always fun. Like I said, you've let the people know where to find us. Where can they find you online?
They can find me on Twitter at HLoveMillionaire with no E. And where can they find you, Spencer? I can't remember.
Hayden, lots of places. But the best place to find me is on Twitter at SpennyLove_WCS or at WC Sports CA. That is Win Column Sports, where you can find them pretty well everywhere. We've sang their praises enough. We've sang our praises enough as far as that goes. We want to sing your praises. Thank you for listening to us. You were obviously excellent people with excellent, rational decision-making skills. because you're listening to the best damn podcast in Albertan wrestling. Thanks again for listening to OTTR episode 33 on Backbreaker Media. We're proud members of the Wincombe Sports Network. Thanks again for listening.